Scorpion is one of the first ever Mortal Kombat characters, and as a series icon, if not its de facto flagship character.
Get over here!
Is probably one of the most popular lines in fighting games, and maybe gaming in general. But who is Scorpion? In this video, we'll be taking a look at his entire story. Please note that this video consists of content that we published before the release of Mortal Kombat 11 back in 2019, but now we've greatly expanded on that with completely new edits and re-recordings, and new content considering the events from Mortal Kombat 11 and its DLC, Aftermath. Scorpion's appearance has changed drastically over time. In the first Mortal Kombat game, Scorpion and Sub-Zero, the Ice Ninja, and often his rival, since more than one person have taken on the mantle of Sub-Zero, might not have seemed more than palette swaps for each other. But in recent games, they are incredibly distinct from each other. Get over here and let's find out the full story of Scorpion, the Mortal Kombat icon. So iconic that he's featured on the logo for NetherRealm Studios, the current developer for the Mortal Kombat franchise. In the first Mortal Kombat game, Scorpion and Sub-Zero were deliberately designed as palette swaps for each other, though the two were meant to have intertwining stories from the start. Scorpion, real name Hanzo Hasashi, is Japanese, part of a line of ninjas called the Shirai Ryu. The Shirai Ryu were founded by a man from Japan who was once a part of a group of Chinese martial artists called the Lin Kuei, a faction with which several important Mortal Kombat characters, including Sub-Zero, are associated. The Shirai Ryu was originally formed as an antagonist counterfaction to the Lin Kuei. The founder of the Shirai Ryu was Takeda, a Japanese man and former member of the Lin Kuei, who decided to leave upon learning many of their techniques, wanting to bring these techniques back to Japan. The Lin Kuei looked down on people leaving the clan, and while Takeda was able to found the Shirai Ryu, spread his teachings, and avoid death for some time, he was eventually assassinated by the Lin Kuei. But what he left behind, and what continued, was a line of ninjas who dressed similarly to the Lin Kuei, though wearing yellow instead of the Lin Kuei's blue. All of this happened long before the first Mortal Kombat game, and before Scorpion and a Sub-Zero crossed paths, but it serves as a foundation for their rivalry. Beyond this, it must first be established that the story of Mortal Kombat exists within two separate continuities. There are a total of 11 mainline Mortal Kombat games. The first 8 of these were developed by Midway Games, while the latter 3 were developed by NetherRealm Studios. The games developed by Midway form their own timeline, while 2011's reboot sees Raiden trying to avert the events of Mortal Kombat Armageddon, the 7th game, by returning to a previous point in time, chronologically corresponding to the first Mortal Kombat game. It serves as a reboot of the franchise, and as its own continuity, in this way diverging from the mythology path that Midway Games forged. Gameplay-wise, Scorpion boasts some of the most iconic attacks in all of Mortal Kombat. Several of the initial Mortal Kombat characters found in the first game and in the second or third games are already quite popular due to their standout designs, including Johnny Cage, Sonya Blade, Kang, and especially Raiden. But few probably possess the cumulative icon status of Scorpion. He uses weapons including a chain, which he uses to reel opponents in with. Once it connects, an attack connected to his well-known "Get Over Here" line. His Toasty fatality, in which he removes his mask and spits fire at his opponent and incinerates them, is a defining fatality. For those unaware, fatalities are bonus attacks that winners of a match can perform against defeated opponents, who are placed in a helpless state while the winners decide how to end the match as they please. Scorpion can also teleport, an ability that he's had since the first game. Adding to his prevalence is his moveset design, which is generally beginner-friendly and allows for newcomers to the game to easily feel in control and capable. Coming to the story, across both timelines, in spite of plenty of differences, there are still consistent elements about Scorpion's character. For one, in either continuity, Scorpion is often described as the rival of Sub-Zero. It is a natural extension of the rivalry of their martial arts clans. There are two characters who assume the role of Sub-Zero in Mortal Kombat games, and there is only ever one Scorpion. But Scorpion maintains an antagonistic relationship with both to some degree either way. This rivalry is in large part founded on being lied to about who killed Scorpion's family. Scorpion, at some point in his story, is always undead, but in the NetherRealm continuity, he's brought back to life as a human rather than simply being undead by Raiden. Scorpion is an incredibly vindictive character who often takes action consumed with rage, unable to stop until he either gets what he wants or he's snapped out of it through factors either internal or external. Scorpion also inevitably will hate Quan Chi in any timeline, a wizard who murdered him and his family, though in both continuities it's a fact that is hidden from Scorpion until quite later on in the story. In both continuities, though, at different points in plot progression, Scorpion is resurrected by Quan Chi from death and serves him, under the promise of exacting revenge against the people the sorcerer falsely led him to believe were the murderers of himself and his family. The Midway game's continuity follows Scorpion as he seeks revenge against the Lin Kuei and Sub-Zero for killing him and his family. In the first game, he kills Sub-Zero, according to canon. In the next game, he learns of a new Sub-Zero, the younger brother of the original. He is unable to bring himself to attack him though, and vows to protect him for the rest of the series, which extends into the third game. At this point, while he's enlisted by series villain Shao Kahn to fight against the heroes, Scorpion eventually decides against it when learning Sub-Zero is on that side. In the fourth game, Scorpion learns that Quan Chi killed him and his family, and vows revenge against him, realizing that he was tricked into believing that the Lin Kuei and Sub-Zero were responsible. Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance follows Scorpion on the hunt as Quan Chi strikes a deal to protect him, while in Mortal Kombat Deception, he has his power enhanced, while also asking for his family and the Shirai Ryu to be resurrected, though they're brought back in undead form. This enrages Scorpion, which is what directly leads into the events of Mortal Kombat Armageddon. That game, incidentally, sees his story coming cruelly full circle, and he is eventually slain by Sub-Zero. Scorpion has often maintained a unique moral position in the Mortal Kombat games, and even when he's not always been working with the protagonists and might only be pursuing actions that benefit them incidentally, he is still never completely aligned with or shares the goals of villains such as Shang Tsung and Shao Kahn. This is more often the case throughout the Midway continuity, since in the NetherRealm continuity, Scorpion eventually is established as an overtly positive character, for the most part. In this continuity, he has made peace with the current Sub-Zero and the Lin Kuei, after learning that they are not responsible for his and his family's deaths. In the NetherRealm continuity, the character of Scorpion himself is also a persona, a psyche, the accumulation of his grief after having lost his family, and the rage that fuels his desire to seek revenge, often directed at either Sub-Zero or Quan Chi. This concept of Scorpion is ultimately separate from the true Scorpion, the human that is Hanzo Hasashi. Scorpion here is both an alias and an incorporeal manifestation of hatred, one that Hanzo Hasashi has at times manifested and has to fight against. Against a target that provokes uncontrollable rage, the Scorpion persona sometimes takes over. Mortal Kombat X brings some much-needed resolution for Hanzo's personal story, though before it kicks off, he's not exactly in a good space. Before the game begins, Scorpion is serving in Quan Chi's army during an invasion of NetherRealm, and at this point isn't aware of the sorcerer's true nature. This sees him coming to blows with Sonya Blade, Johnny Cage, and others, and after being defeated, he's resurrected by Raiden, this time in his original human form, free of all of his corruption and hatred. Not long afterward, Hanzo and Sub-Zero sort out their long-standing differences, and after fully uncovering the truth of their clan's histories and how Quan Chi manipulated them both, decide to fight together and take down the sorcerer. Ultimately, Hanzo is finally successful in killing Quan Chi and avenging the death of his family. He is, however, unable to prevent the sorcerer from freeing Shinnok, and even with the help and the likes of Sonya Blade, Johnny Cage, and Kenshi, he is unable to stop him. By the time Mortal Kombat 11's events kick off, life is very different for the character. He's now fully reverted to his original Hanzo persona, and with Kenshi's help, has also managed to establish a new and reformed Shirai Ryu clan. But the past version of himself is also very much present in the story. That, of course, is due to the machinations of Kronika, the Keeper of Time, whose temporal distortions result in the past versions of several characters being pulled into the present. That includes Scorpion, back when he was still burning with vengeful fires, and had all but given up his human persona. Scorpion, believing that Kronika will be able to bring his dead family back to life, thus decides to side with Kronika. Hanzo, meanwhile, continues to fight the good fight, and for a major chunk of his story in the game, has rival-turned-friend Sub-Zero fighting by his side. The two manage to work together to infiltrate the cyber Lin Kuei and stop its cyborg army, restored and reformed by Kronika, and are able to defeat cyberized forms of both Frost and Noob Cybot, along with Sector, while also freeing Cyrax from their captivity. Following that, Hanzo also proves instrumental in the efforts to convince Kairon, the ferryman of the NetherRealm, to join forces with Earthrealm's forces and aid them in their fight against Kronika. Ultimately, the battle between Earthrealm and Kronika's forces sees Hanzo's Shirai Ryu Fire Garden being used as a base for many of the heroes. Eventually, however, he ends up crossing paths with his past self, aka Scorpion. In that fight, Hanzo is able to defeat Scorpion and successfully convinces him to turn against Kronika's corruption, telling him that her actions would also resurrect Shinnok, the one responsible for the death of their family. Tragically, however, not long afterward, Hanzo is ambushed and poisoned by Devourer, and though Scorpion manages to fend her off and force her to retreat, he's unable to save Hanzo, who dies in his arms. Scorpion eventually takes his place in the final battle against Kronika in Raiden's forces, though interestingly enough, there is some conflict between Scorpion and Raiden before that, with Raiden believing that he's been sent by Kronika to infiltrate their army. Thankfully, Kang intervenes and is able to make Raiden see reason. Of course, the final battle doesn't go well for Scorpion, and he's one of several characters to get erased when Kronika turns back time to the prehistoric era during her climactic duel with Kang. During the events of Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath, after defeating Kronika, as part of his efforts to create his own new timeline, Kang has turned back time to earlier in that continuity, though things obviously do go differently from this point forward. For instance, Scorpion and Sub-Zero have run-ins with Shang Tsung and Fujin, while Scorpion is also present at the Fire Gardens where Kronika ends up freezing almost everyone in time. Interestingly, neither Scorpion nor Sub-Zero are seen in Aftermath's final battle, though given just how many casualties there are throughout the DLC, it wouldn't be illogical to assume that they've died. Of course, Aftermath ends with Kang creating a new timeline, which is what the upcoming Mortal Kombat 1 is going to be focusing on, which means we'll get a new version of Scorpion once again. Scorpion's narrative arc throughout the course of the series and his growing importance are particularly interesting, because he never started out as a leading protagonist in the early Mortal Kombat games. That title belongs to Kang. And across all games, Johnny Cage and Raiden are also prominent figures. But over time, it is arguably the story and presence of the ninjas, Scorpion and Sub-Zero that has eclipsed the others in popular culture, which is quite the feat, since Mortal Kombat has several well-known characters. Scorpion boasts notable crossover appearances, including NBA Jam Tournament Edition, in which he played basketball, and Psyops, the Mindgate Conspiracy, a third-person shooter. Even in spin-off games, he often makes appearances, including Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks featuring Kang and Kung Lao, in which he was also a playable character, though this is not canonical to the story. The same developers of this game had planned for a game similar to Shaolin Monks featuring Scorpion and Sub-Zero as protagonists, but it never got off the ground. However, he does figure prominently in Mortal Kombat mythology's Sub-Zero, which serves as a prequel to Mortal Kombat 4 within the Midway games continuity. And what role exactly will he take in the upcoming Mortal Kombat 1? The game's reveal trailer has confirmed that he will be returning, not that there was ever any doubt of that, and teased that even though we've gone back to the early stages of these characters' stories, seemingly at least, Scorpion and Sub-Zero are going to fight as brothers in arms, as they did later in their lives, not as sworn enemies, as most would expect them to be early on. It's safe to assume that this new continuity that NetherRealm is now about to establish is going to play with fans' expectations in interesting ways. Some things might be the same, some might be similar, while others might diverge in entirely unexpected ways. After all, this is pretty much the playbook the developer used when it soft rebooted the franchise with 2011's Mortal Kombat. But how much exactly will change? It seems safe to assume that certain characters, like Sub-Zero, will continue to be an integral part of Scorpion's personal story, and that certain events, like the death of his family and the history of the Shirai Ryu clan, will be crucial factors as well. But will the details to any of those be changed? Might we perhaps see a Scorpion with a completely different life, a completely different past, and as such a completely different character arc? After all, when Kang set out to create his new timeline, his primary goal was to give everyone in it a much more peaceful life. It should be interesting to see how something like that changes Scorpion's story, which is very much the antithesis of peaceful, or if it even does. One thing is clear without a doubt, that Scorpion, as the de facto face of Mortal Kombat, is going to have a massive role in Mortal Kombat 1's story, and we can't wait to find out what that'll be. So what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.